Donald Trump's labor secretary, former prosecutor Alex Acosta, broke his silence today, addressing the firestorm over the 2008 plea deal that he cut with accused sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein.
Would you make this same agreement today?
We now have 12 years of knowledge and hindsight, and we live in a very different world. Today's world treats victims very, very differently.
Critics have unloaded on many aspects of this case, including why the accusers and, according to the law, the victims were not given their legal right of notification about the plea deal. NBC's Savannah Guthrie just sat down with a new accuser who explains how Epstein approached her in New York City when she was 14.
You're 14 years old.
Yeah, you knew very well my age. You know exactly, who he was hanging out with, I don't think he cared.
Did Jeffrey Epstein rape you?
Yeah, no, he raped me. Forcefully raped me, knew exactly what he was doing, and I don't think cared.
Epstein pleaded not guilty to sex trafficking charges that were brought against him in New York this week by the Trump DOJ. Those charges, though, have also ignited the questions about how this other Trump official, Acosta, originally dealt with Epstein and then got promoted in the Trump administration. This was back when he was the U.S. attorney in Florida.
They didn't hear back from you until it was too late. Do you owe them an apology?
The agreement that had been negotiated had an unusual provision.
You have no regrets.
We believe that we proceeded appropriately.
But these victims say you failed them.
We did what we did because we wanted to see Epstein go to jail.
What is the message to victims who say they don't trust you anymore?
The message is you need to come forward.
Glenn Kirshner, also a former federal prosecutor. Thanks for joining me on this case. Did you think that Mr. Acosta made any points today that were fair or valid? And did you think that he made any mistakes or was wrong today?
What I heard from Labor Secretary Acosta was a pretty transparent attempt to weasel out of responsibility for drafting what is a non-prosecution agreement unlike anything I've ever seen as a federal prosecutor. What he tried to do in different ways was not blame the victims so much as saying that he was sparing the victims because these young girls were embarrassed and they didn't want to have to relive what had been done to them. They didn't want people criticizing them. Well, I can tell you, Ari, I prosecuted sex cases back in the 80s as an Army JAG, and they're horrific for everybody, first and foremost the victims. So no victim ever wants to relive it, but they do want to have their day in court. They do want some justice. And at the end of the day, I have found that they do want to tell their story because that's how you hold sexual offenders accountable. So I thought it was an oblique attempt to blame victims. He also threw his senior prosecutor, I don't think he ever named her, the lead prosecutor on the case, but referred to her a number of times as I think a senior female prosecutor, threw her under the bus, kind of saying, well, some of those decisions were made by her. And then the third thing is he kept wanting to blame the state. And can I tell you, Ari, there are 94 U.S. attorneys' offices. Each and every one works cooperatively with the state authorities because we have what we call concurrent jurisdiction.
Right. There was definitely blame shifting. I want to get you on the law. Some of this is debating what looks like a very lenient deal. Then there's the law. The federal law has a very clear right for victims to be informed in a timely manner of a plea bargain or these kind of agreements. Then you look at the reporting that prosecutors were busted for wrongly keeping, this is Acosta and his team, keeping the victims of this, quote, child sex ring in the dark about his deal, according to a judge. Where does that fit in?
Well, he squarely violated the Crime Victims' Rights Act. And, when you realize that victims have a right to be notified in a timely manner of any potential plea arrangement or non-prosecution agreement. And then when you look at this non-prosecution agreement, Ari, there's a term in it that says we agree to keep this out of the public record. And then there is that incredible letter that's written by Jay Lefkowitz, one of Epstein's attorneys, saying, thank you, U.S. Attorney Acosta, for agreeing to keep this under wraps and not notifying the victims. That letter might have well have said, thank you, U.S. Attorney Acosta, for violating the law, because that's what a federal judge found he did.
That's what they found. And it again goes to some of the way he's recasting it today. Oh, for this or that reason. You could believe him or not. We have those debates. But you're pointing to some of the evidence that shows how much of it was done at the behest of this convicted sex offender billionaire. Glenn Kirshner, thank you for your reporting and your analysis.
Thank you, Ari.
Another update to a story that we've reported on a lot here. A federal appeals court has just tossed a lawsuit that was alleging that President Trump was illegally profiting off the presidency. This came from Maryland and D.C. attorneys general. And it was all about something that you may have heard of, this constitutional emoluments clause, the idea that he was using hotels like this one to get money from foreign governments. So that is a procedural win for Trump. We should note there's a separate emoluments case brought by congressional Democrats that is still pending. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.